Our name is Ghosts. Want you dead? Although a strange illness has separated us, our passion for recounting these mysterious tales forces one of us to soldier on alone, beset by perils aplenty, to inform you, faceless listener, of the grim fates of our subjects. Hello, I'm Matthew. Sadly, Rebecca has taken ill this week, and we're going to have to muddle on without her for this episode. How was your Halloween? Myself, I spent the evening alone and retired relatively early. When one is spooky year-round, one feels less pressure to really do it up for Halloween. In absence of a conversation partner, let's get right down to the business at hand, shall we? Episode 36. Victoria Winter reminds us that she's still searching for answers. As Liz exits the kitchen, David creeps around up on the landing. In the drawing room, Vicky is standing creepily in a corner as Liz enters the drawing room. She sneaks up and startles her. Vicky reveals that she has decided to leave Collinwood. This news pleases habitual eavesdropper David to no end. Opening credits. Liz tries to talk Vicky out of leaving, at first in kind of a bullying way. Vicky explains that David threatened her. Liz shuts the doors, knowing that David is likely listening in the hall. Liz makes excuses for her murderous nephew and tries to guilt Vicky into staying and fixing him. But Liz, like all shitty bosses, pulls the "but you're part of the family" trick. Then she practically begs. She makes emotional appeals. They're interrupted by a phone call. It's new Sam calling for Roger, but he is tongue-tied and hangs up mid-message before revealing his identity. He's calling from the payphone at the restaurant at the inn. So he wanders back into a table and hangs his head dramatically. He looks up to see Roger looming over him as the score gets ominous. Roger is paranoid about Sam having called the house. Overly so, I think, considering they are currently sitting together in public in view of anyone who might want to look. Roger bosses Sam around, forbidding him from calling him at home and forbidding him from painting Burke's portrait. Sam says he couldn't get out of it. He tried, and Burke just wouldn't take no for an answer. Roger spells out that Burke is just trying to get information out of him. Sam talks about being ashamed of what he did to Burke 10 years ago. Roger has to break it down like, listen, you're a drunk and you probably can't keep your mouth shut. Eventually, you'll end up telling him the truth. Roger tells him that he has until tomorrow morning to cancel the portrait, and he does it in a threatening way, like, I'm going to kill you if you don't do what I say. Back at Collinwood, Liz is still manipulating Vicky into staying, and eventually it works. Vicky finally gives in because even she can read the room and knows Liz is her mom. As they walk into the foyer, David barges in and whines that he doesn't want Vicky to stay. Liz sends him into the drawing room for a talk as Vicky goes upstairs to get ready to go out. I believe she says she's going to go to a movie. In the drawing room, Liz and David argue about Vicky. She tells him to stop threatening her and that she's going to stay. Liz also calls him out on the attempted murder, which he initially tries to deny, but Liz is like, cut the shit, we both know what you did. Rather than argue, David is like, you hate me just like everybody else. To which Liz replies, if I hated you, you wouldn't still be living in my house, with an emphasis on the my. She says she is angry with him, though. He doesn't care, and she tells him, well, he'd better start caring if he doesn't want to be sad and lonely. He thinks that she wants to send him away. She does not. She instructs him to obey Vicky, and of course he asks, what if I don't? And she says, don't make me answer that. He then tries to emotionally manipulate her into getting rid of Vicky, but she isn't buying it. Roger walks in and talks shit to David. David asks Roger to come upstairs with him, and he refuses and is being his generally snide and mean self. He talks to the painting again about, gee, this family is bonkers. Back at the restaurant, Sam is sketching something on a napkin. Vicky enters looking gloomy, and Sam ambushes her from behind with his smarmy, pretentious bullshit. He offers her coffee. I guess Maggie is out somewhere. He asks her about Liz, saying something to the tune of like, "Oh, I haven't seen her in like 18 years. What's she like now?" He seems to be planning on confiding in Liz about whatever he and Roger did to Burke. But then he goes back to his pretentious bullshit and is still this new Sam, insufferable as the last Sam, perhaps more so. At Collinwood, Roger pours a drink as Liz looks on scowling. They fight about David. Roger yells that she can do whatever the hell she wants with him. He doesn't care. He is on one. He is vague and shouty and mad, but can't seem to express why. He goes upstairs, and Liz looks befuddled. Vicky arrives home just in time to overhear Liz trying to reach someone called Ned Calder in Portland on the phone. Vicky looms behind a worried-looking Liz. End credits. Episode 37. Victoria Winters tells us that she can't sleep. Neither can Roger. We see Roger looking dramatically into the middle distance instead of the window, but he is standing in front of the window at least. He creeps into the foyer, changes his mind, and then goes back into the drawing room and calls Sam on the telephone. Roger is following up to see if he has canceled on Burke as ordered. New Sam can't get his lines out, so he'll fit right in here. Roger sounds on the verge of tears. They argue, and Roger reiterates his threat. It appears that Vicky has been listening from the doorway, and Roger makes an adorable, shocked face on seeing her. Opening credits. Roger demands to know how long she had been there. He drags her by the arm into the drawing room and closes the door. She says that she didn't overhear his conversation and had just walked in when he saw her. He accuses her of snooping and prying. He threatens to send her away, and she calls him on his bullshit, saying that she had tried to leave that very morning and Liz wouldn't let her and begged her to stay. And Vicky clearly knows the score that, like, listen, I don't work for you, I work for her, and I have her wrapped around my little finger because she's my mother. Uncle Roger. Roger starts to get madder, but then changes his tune and tells Vicky to forget whatever it is she heard and bids her a good night. She goes upstairs and Roger goes for another drink. There's a fun, almost match cut to Sam also pouring a drink at home. Maggie enters, asking why he's still up at 1:15 in the morning, and he tells her to go back to sleep and leave him alone. She wants to know who was on the phone, and he lies. She doesn't buy it. He goes on to say it was the local bookmaker and tells her rudely that she looks tired and should go back to bed. She's too young to have worry lines or something. Well, she's worried about him. He is annoying. This is a theme in the Evans house. But then he tries to be nice to get her to leave him alone. He sends her back to bed, telling her not to worry, and she says, "Tell me to stop breathing while you're at it." So she may have inherited a bit of the flair for drama. Maggie really ought to leave this miserable old drunk to his own devices and move to a big city, I think. Much more to gossip about. She'd love it. After she's left the room, Sam paces a bit, looking at a piece of paper. Maggie comes back in, saying that she couldn't sleep and got back up to make tea and asks what he's looking at. Sam calls her nosy, and, well, she is, and he reveals it is a letter, but it's private. She goes to make her tea, but looks over her shoulder suspiciously at him. He puts the letter in an envelope, addresses it. She asks who it is for, and he reveals that the letter is addressed to her. She's confused, and he tells her to just keep the letter safe, don't open it or show it to anyone. The kettle whistles, and he screams at her to go turn it off. He almost reveals the contents of the letter, but tells her to only open it if something should happen to him. Maggie tries to pry some more, but he won't tell her what's going on. She infers that it has something to do with Collinwood, and she wishes it would burn to the ground. Sam is pretentious and dramatic about it. Surprise! Something, something, ghosts, blah, blah, blah. Sam starts to go to bed, and Maggie says she knows it was Roger on the phone and at the heart of whatever is upsetting him. Back at Collinwood, a woman sobs hysterically, heard in the foyer. Vicky starts down the stairs looking for the source of the crying. The ghost is really hamming it up, really good. Just really going for it. And Vicky wanders around trying to find whoever's so upset and tell them to tone it down a bit. Well, it isn't coming from the drawing room, so she heads in through the door in the foyer into the kitchen and eventually ends up in the basement, where the crying is revealed to be coming from the locked door within. Vicky calls out through the door and knocks, but the crying has stopped and she can't get in. A figure descends the stairs. It's Roger, glaring at her and demanding to know what she's doing down there. She explains, and he scolds her again for prowling and prying and her constant snooping. She asks if Roger heard the crying. He calls it her imagination and is skeptical, but she insists that she heard it. He scolds her and yells some more, instructing her not to wander around or investigate strange noises or do anything but teach his evil little son that he hates. He runs away as the phone rings and Vicky follows. The crying in the locked room resumes. On the phone, it's Ned Calder returning Liz's call. When she left a message, she had said, and Vicky explains this to Roger, that, oh, it's very important and call back as soon as you get this, no matter what time. Roger is pissed that she knows this, like she just hangs around listening all the time, and he's being a dick and also fumbling his lines. Vicky starts upstairs to tell Liz that Roger's being a creep, so he gets sad and contrite and asks her to talk some more. He apologizes for his shitty behavior and asks her not to bother Liz with their drama. Vicky is pissed. Roger makes excuses. She's not buying it. He begs for forgiveness. The hallmark of all liars, he says, "You do believe me, don't you?" He then tries flattery and he wants to be friends. She is reasonably skeptical. She says, though, that she'll accept his apology on one condition. He admits that he heard the crying. He says that he did, and he has heard it often and doesn't know the source, but it's probably a ghost. End credits. Episode 38. Victoria Winters doesn't want us to forget that Collinwood is creepy and haunted. She creeps down the basement stairs again to examine the locked door. Now, new Matthew confronts her from the shadows. He is considerably spookier than previous Matthew. I look forward to Rebecca's impressions of him. Anyway, new Matthew asks Vicky what she's doing down there and what she's looking for. He reminds her that Liz said she should stay out of the basement. Vicky pretends to be looking for books. Opening credits. She does find a stack of books to rifle through to try and make her story plausible. Matthew invites her to join him in going upstairs. He doesn't really buy the books thing, and she asks him if he believes in ghosts. She explains about the crying, and he very casually is just like, "Oh, you mean Josette Collins," and goes on to explain that, "Oh yeah, that's just the ghost. This place is lousy with them." He tells her to just ignore it and stay in her room next time she hears anything weird. She asks if he has a key to the locked room. He yells at her some more about snooping. He explains that he will not let anybody make trouble for Ms. Stoddard. On cue, Liz calls down the stairs asking for Matthew to come up and get the shopping list she's prepared. Matthew explains to Vicky that if she wants to know anything about that room, ask Liz. She's the only one who has a key, but he advises her to do like he does and just do her job without asking any questions. At the restaurant, Carolyn enters and approaches Burke at his table, asking what he's reading. They flirt. She brings up Vicky being there the night prior. Hilariously, Carolyn points out that Burke is reading The Count of Monte Cristo. She outlines the similarities in the stories. I thought this was kind of silly but cute. She is clearly fishing to make sure that he isn't boning Vicky by bringing her up again. He's evasive about it. They flirt some more. Back at Collinwood, new Matthew makes a creepy face in the foyer before Liz enters to give him that shopping list. Matthew complains conversationally about Burke Devlin being back in town. Liz explains that Burke did not do anything to Roger. She tells Matthew what happened in that special Liz way of giving him the version of events that she expects him to tell. I love it when she does this. She explains that, "Oh, Matthew, it was your fault because you neglected to keep the car in good repair." He's a little taken aback, like, this isn't what happened, and she explains, like, "Well, yeah, it is, because that's the story I already told the police." She apologizes for making him look bad, and Matthew agrees to go along with her lie. He then tattles on Vicky for being in the basement, and Liz makes an annoyed face. Vicky is still snooping around in the basement, and Liz comes down to catch her in the act. She is pissed. Vicky insists there are no such things as ghosts, and she heard the crying in that locked room, so is somebody in there? Liz is still pissed. Vicky asks if she has ever heard the ghost. She says she has, but it's a big house and the wind makes weird noises. Liz tries to blame the pipes, and there is nothing in the locked room. Liz won't say any more about it. Back at the restaurant, Carolyn is fiddling with her ring. Burke returns from a phone call with Sam. He remarks on her ring. They flirt. Carolyn tries to talk him into spending the day with her. She gets mad when he isn't into it, so he offers a rain check. She pouts. He flirts. He asks, "Do you always make friends with your family's enemies?" And she doggedly continues trying to get him to hang out with her. He explains that he is going to Bangor on business. She pouts. They laugh. He kind of slut shames her. What did he say? Oh, she says something about not being a little girl, and he says, "Well, maybe you shouldn't try so hard to prove that." She tells him to call her. She flirts more. She leaves, and he discovers that she has deliberately left her ring under his copy of The Count of Monte Cristo, so he'll have to return it. In the foyer at Collinwood, Vicky tells Liz that, "Oh, by the way, last night Ned Calder returned your call at like 1 o'clock in the morning." She explains her run-in with Roger. Liz sends Vicky upstairs to work and stomps deliberately into the drawing room to return Ned Calder's call. We still don't know who that is. Back at the restaurant, Burke pays for his meal as new Matthew enters and orders coffee. Burke strikes up a conversation, perhaps with an aim to try and bribe him into giving information on the family like he did with Joe. Matthew threatens to kill Burke if he brings any trouble to Ms. Stoddard, but he does it in a very matter-of-fact conversational way. No raised voices, just, "If you cause any trouble for Mrs. Stoddard, I will kill you." Back at Collinwood, Carolyn wanders in cheerily on cloud nine. She and Vicky chat on the landing, and Carolyn explains the ring ploy she pulled. She does not say Burke's name, but tells Vicky that, "Oh, well, I'm probably going to Bangor later." This is a new euphemism, I think. She really wants Burke to take her to Bangor. Vicky asks about the crying that she heard the night previous, and Carolyn says, "Oh, yeah, I hear that all the time, ever since I was a little kid. It's just the ghosts," and tells Vicky that she'd better get used to it like the rest of the kooks at Collinwood. Liz walks in on her questioning Carolyn about the haunting. Liz offers Vicky the key to the locked room if she insists on not taking her word for it. Now Vicky feels bad and says that won't be necessary. End credits. Episode 39. Victoria Winters reminds us that Collinwood is creepy, but also the Collinsport area in general. Over at the Evanses' house, new Sam is pacing and talking to himself. Roger arrives and was expected. He asks if Maggie is present and then yells some more. Sam says he's gonna do Burke's portrait. He just can't tell him no. Roger insists that Burke cannot connect he and Sam in any way as Burke pulls into the driveway. Opening credits. Roger doesn't want to leave the two of them alone and tells Sam to just pretend he's not at home, ignore the knocking. Sam won't do that, so Roger goes to hide in the bathroom and eavesdrop. Like possible father, like possible son, I guess. Sam tries to cancel the session as Burke enters, saying he has a headache, but Burke will not be put off. He is real eager for this portrait. He asks Sam again if anyone is pressuring him to quit the job. Burke says he'd like to believe that Roger isn't behind all of this. He asks Sam again to confirm if anyone is pressuring him. So Sam says no, and Burke is like, okay, great, well, let's get to it then. Sam starts to crack, it seems, like he's about to tell Burke the whole story, but instead says he'll do it for $1,000 instead of $1,500. Burke won't have it, though. He insists on paying the full amount. In the drawing room at Collinwood, Liz and Bill Malloy are talking business. He tells her that Burke has been inquiring about all of her holdings. Again, with the literary references, Bill goes on about Burke being Captain Ahab and the Collinses being Moby Dick. Bill says he'd like to stop Burke and wants Liz's permission to do whatever is necessary to stop him. Liz says she isn't afraid of Burke, but then the phone rings and it's Ned Calder. Liz is excited, but Bill seems to know who this is. On the phone, Liz tells Ned that she'd like him to come work for her again immediately. He tells her that he'll think about it. After the call ends, Bill is confused as Liz had previously said that she'd hoped to never see Ned Calder again when he quit his job. So Bill explains that Ned had been Liz's business manager for 15 years. He thinks that this is all because of Burke Devlin, Burke Devlin, Burke Devlin. Liz admits that yes, that's why she was trying to get Ned back, because I guess he's a tough guy who could handle Big Bad Burke. Bill goes on to say that he's going to stop Burke with or without her permission. At the Evanses, Burke is posing as Sam sketches, and Burke asks if Sam has ever been to Collinwood, and if he'd ever wondered what it might be like to live there. It seems like Sam maybe used to have a crush on Liz. Burke asks Sam if he knew Roger 10 years ago, right around the time of the manslaughter trial. Roger is listening intently from his hiding place. But Sam doesn't want to talk about all that. He also accidentally admits that he didn't really have a headache. Sam again tries to get rid of Burke, and Burke relents and says, okay, fine, he'll come back tomorrow. Burke tries to wash his hands, headed towards the bathroom, and Sam panics and won't let him in, making an excuse about, oh, Maggie would be mortified, she's left stockings hanging everywhere, and you couldn't possibly see that, and he redirects him to the kitchen. Burke jokes that Sam must have a lady hidden in there. The phone rings. It's for Burke. It is Bill Malloy wanting to meet, so they make plans to do so at the restaurant. After Burke leaves, Roger emerges from hiding and says he could kill Sam. After confirming that Burke is truly gone, they argue again about the same old stuff. Roger is being a dick. But I do think that he's right, and Sam will eventually confess if he spends enough time with Burke. Roger suggests that he leave town, and he offers to give him the money to do so, but Sam refuses, and Roger is like, well, my money was good enough for you 10 years ago, and they haggle about an amount that might motivate Sam to skip town. Noticeably, Roger's forehead bandage is gone, but he has a comically fake scar. At the restaurant, Bill and Burke are chatting. Burke alludes to his ambitions of buying Collinwood. Bill tells him that he knows what he's up to, and Bill offers a deal. He says that if Burke will agree to leave town, Bill will clear his name. Burke makes a shocked face, like, oh, so you know that I didn't do it? And he's confused. Bill again asks if he'll leave the Collinses alone if he proves his innocence. But he names them and he says, you know, so if I prove you did not manslaughter that person, you'll leave Liz and Carolyn and David alone. Burke points this out, and it's clear that Bill knows that Roger framed Burke, though he doesn't say it outright. Burke tells him he needs some time to think about it. Back at the Evanses, Sam asks Roger why he won't leave. They continue the same argument. Roger resorts to threats again. Sam says that he expected this and reveals that he wrote down the truth and left it to be read if anything should happen to him. Sam dramatically tells Roger to try him if he doesn't believe him. Roger yells a bunch and asks where the letter is. While they're having this loud argument, Bill lets himself into Sam's house. The three regard each other intensely. Dramatic music sting. End credits. Episode 40. Victoria Winters reminds us that Collinwood, David, and Roger, all of them are creepy. At the Evanses' house, Bill pretends that he's just dropped in to see his old friend Sam for coffee. It is awkward. Opening credits. Roger pretends that he's just there to commission a painting. Bill jokes that Burke had told him that Sam was painting his portrait this morning. He says he assumed they were arguing about Burke. Bill is more subtle than most on this program, but still not subtle. He is funny with his questioning and asks Sam for more coffee to get him out of the room. Roger asks him for a ride back to town, but Bill declines. Roger leaves and Bill locks the door behind him. While Sam is still fetching coffee, Bill snoops a little bit. Sam gets back and gives Bill more coffee. They reminisce about having been friends for a long time and about Sam's dead wife and how great she was and how sad it is that she's dead. But Bill reveals he came by because of Burke. Over at the inn, Burke calls Collinwood for Carolyn. She rushes down the stairs to answer. She continues her ring ruse, feigning surprise that he found it. She insists that they meet at the restaurant. He initially says he'll just drop it off at the house, but no, she wants to meet him there. Back at the Evanses, Bill and Sam are talking about Burke. We see the sketch of Burke a couple of times, and new Sam is pretty good at arting. The sketch of Burke is kind of hot, more so than Burke appears in the flesh. Bill tries to get Sam to fess up. He suggests, why don't they switch from coffee to liquor? Of course, Sam falls for it. but Bill clearly is just trying to get him drunk to loosen his lip. They talk more about Burke, again that he grew up poor but now he's rich. Bill jokingly calls Sam a rummy, which hurts his feelings, and he's pretentious about it. Back at the inn, Burke is on the phone telling Bronson that he'll be on the way to meet him soon. He ends the call and runs into Roger in the restaurant. Burke antagonizes Roger about how he's milking Sam for information. Burke produces Carolyn's ring, which Roger recognizes, and he's pissed and confused about why he has it. So Burke reveals that she left the ring in the restaurant earlier and she's on the way to pick it up. Roger insists that Burke give him the ring to return to Carolyn. Burke obliges. Roger warns him to keep away from his family. Burke teases that, what do I do if they don't want to keep away from me? At Collinwood, Carolyn is descending the stairs in the foyer, ready to go meet Burke. Roger enters, and Carolyn lets him know she's on her way to a date, and Roger reveals he knows that it's Burke, and he returns the ring to her. Carolyn is pissed. She reveals that she likes Burke, but Roger asks that she not see him. She wants to know why, and decides she's not going to have it, and she's a grown-up lady and will make her own decisions, and storms out. Roger looks worried. At the inn, Carolyn rushes in hoping to catch Burke, and he is waiting at a table in the restaurant. She pretends to think he still has the ring and she's just there to collect it, and he grabs her purse and produces the ring from within and calls her out on this being an old trick and very obvious. She is still trying to go with him to Bangor because she wants him to bang her. She asks when he's leaving. He says, oh, in about 15 minutes, and he goes upstairs. Carolyn goes to the payphone and calls home and asks Vicky to pass along to Mother that she won't be home for dinner. She insists that she has a really big date. She returns to her car and is clearly going to follow Burke to Bangor. Back at Sam's, he is drunk. Say what you will about new Sam, but he does a good drunk. Anyway, he's lamenting about how he used to be talented. Bill fishes for information. Sam goes on and on about ghosts coming down from the hill to torment him. He says somebody is gonna kill him. Sam admits that it is Roger that he's scared of. Bill went a little too far with the liquoring him up to get information out of him, and so now Sam is beyond reason and also about to pass out. Sam does reveal that Roger is afraid of him, too. He tells Bill that he, Sam, is the only thing standing between Roger and a prison cell. Then he passes out. Bill is disgusted and gathers his things to leave. He does drape a blanket over Sam on the way out. End credits. Thus concludes this week's episode of Ghosts Want You Dead. If you're enjoying our little program, please do leave a review on whatever platform you listen on. Also, do say hello over on our social media. We are Ghosts Want You Dead on Instagram and YouTube. We are GWYD Podcast on TikTok. I do miss my end show banter with Rebecca. I hope she's feeling better. Anyway, I guess that's all. We look forward to talking with you again next week.